All right, welcome back to Python Basics practice session. We will be creating a simple calculator, not a physical one, but the code behind the logic. Um, every time we use one of these gadgets, we never really think about, what really goes on. We just punch them in, and then somehow by magic, we expect the result to always come out. But today we get a chance to see, to plan around it, think about it, and kind of get an a real life practical approach to coding where you can think things, you can write things down, and then you can also get a chance to see how they solve real life problem. Because I think at the end of the day, it's all good and well to program, but that's just my view. It's even more exciting and fulfilling to see those programming and those lines of code solve real life problems, and not create new ones, basically. So that's what we're trying to achieve. So that's the image I'm going to be using, and I'll be referencing it because it's good. I mean, if you've been using something for quite a long time, it's become part of you. And then when you're learning using something you're quite familiar with, it makes the whole process of learning easier. I think so. All right. So now let's jump into our code. And let me bring that image up so that we always have, yes. So we always have our little reference there. So usually when you grab one of these gadget or you open your PC or your smartwatch, whatever, the first thing that you usually do is punch in a number. So we're going to follow that logic. So first of all, and I'm going to say I need to punch a number one. That's going to be my variable. And that number one, I want it to be a float. The reason why I'm choosing a float here is because it also allows me to enter integer. A float is a number with a decimal place, and the integer does not have a decimal place. So 5 will be considered an integer, and then 5.5 will be considered a float. That's basically the whole idea. So I want to have the benefit of both worlds. So float, that's what I'm expecting, not lot. Float. And the way to get a value out or from a user is you use a keyword input. Now, these are inbuilt functions. They come packaged into Python. That's why you have to install them and choose a specific version, and the story goes. So these are inbuilt. So whenever you if you know them, it's kind of a long list, but the ones that are commonly used, if you know them, as soon as you type the keyword, Python recognize them, and it expects a certain type of value to be passed in, and it does the processing. Just think of it as a reusable tool. You don't want to, what they usually say, don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah, there's already a wheel. Just use it. Don't reinvent it. So that's basically the whole idea behind this. Click. So we have an input, and we're gonna say input. We're gonna pass in and just say enter. We don't want this. We're gonna say enter the first number. That's basically what's gonna be displayed on the on our terminal. And your machine, it usually just shows a 0 or a dot just to say, hey, I'm ready. What do you want me to do? So enter the first number. And I'm sensing we may have to do this in multiple videos. We'll see how far we get. So enter the first number is what's going to be prompt. Now remember, in our previous videos, we said Python runs from top to bottom. So logically, what you want after the first number, if you look at your calculator, you usually go plus or minus or multiplication or division, whatever. So we're going to kind of mimic the same flow. We can say operator, and we're going to say operator is a variable. So that's how we know it's a variable, because we now we use the equal sign to assign value to it. And we're going to say We're not going to specify anything. Input is by default a string, so that we should know by now. And then we're just going to say choose an operator. So choose or enter an operator, but for the sake of these, we are going to say choose. But in actual fact, we'll be typing or entering the operator. So operator. So, and then we're going to give a list of operator. That's going to be a plus sign, comma, a minus sign, and then it's going to be the multiplication, and it's going to be your division. Basically, that's what we are passing. That need to be passed. So now, if we continue to follow the flow of how we use our calculator, then the third thing that we usually enter is another number. So we can say not number 2, and we're gonna say similar to what we type in at the top there. We're gonna say input, and the input we say enter. We can use a single quote, enter. We're using every scenario possible. We say enter the second number. That's gonna be second number, and that's gonna be that, not semicolon. Here we go. So Python runs from there to the bottom, from top to bottom. So it's going to prompt us to enter the number 1. And once we've entered that, we're going to enter the operator, what we want the Python to do, and then enter the second number, and then Python will do the processing. Now, Python will not do anything. As a matter of fact, if we just run this code, it just print running. There's nothing there. So because it got these values, but it really doesn't know what to do. So as a matter of fact, if you print that and you print it hasn't got the value yet. So let's look at it. So we're gonna enter number 2, and then we're gonna say enter the plus sign, and we're gonna enter 2 again, and you see nothing is coming up, because as you notice, the information was collected, but there is nothing else to do. So one thing we can do, which is probably the easiest, is print those values. So I'm gonna say print that, and if we run the code again, it's gonna ask us to enter. And you may be asking yourself, but why is it not printing what we just print now? What you need to remember is that the code runs from top to bottom, and at the bottom, it's just, yeah, it's finished. There's nothing else. We've processed, closed, code down, nothing is kept in memory. So if you want to, there are ways you can keep the code in the memory and stuff like that, but that's maybe probably in a later stage where we can probably look at some of those instances. But here the code runs once and it stops. So if you want to redo it again, you have to rerun the code top to bottom. That's basically what it is. Now, if we say 2 plus 2, enter, you get 2. So 2 is basically the value of the number 1 that we entered. So that's basically what I meant by if there's no command after these inputs, nothing will be processed, and you see nothing on the screen. Cool. Now let's clear that. What we want to do is, in our calculator, when you punch those numbers, you select 1, for example, and you add 2. The plus sign is inbuilt, so the calculator knows, well, if you press this button, then I will add the number that you enter before and the number that you enter after. I'll add those 2. And the way we tell the calculator to process, say we're done inputting information, is by pressing the equal sign, as you can see on the picture on the screen. So that's what we want to do. So we already done enter number 1, select the operator, which is whatever we're going to enter, and then enter second number. And then now we want to mimic the equal sign to say process it. So now let's do a short version of it. So we're going to say if the operator, so we're going to base it on the operator. So think of it like that. This is basically the logic that goes on behind the scenes. So if the operator is equal sign, that's how we check. Double equal sign is equal to, I'll use single quote to plus, which is what we're going to use. Close it with a colon uh, and enter. Then we want to do something. We wanted to create first a variable that we're going to use later on. And that variable would take whatever the value of the number, first number is, and add it to the value of the number that is 2. And that can be any number. So it doesn't matter how big the number is, for as long as the calculator can process it, Python would do so. So we're not limited. So the input can be any number, operator can be any number, for as long as we have covered the scenario for it. What I mean by scenario is this expression where we checking the value of to be able to determine what processing need to take place. So once we have that, we want Python to print what the results are. So what the result is. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna say colon that, and then comma results. Here we go. So let's give it a try. So we're gonna press Python main. It says 2, and we made a mistake there. So value error could not, because we didn't pass the value. So and you can see that's also another scenario where you need to be able to handle scenario where the value is not being passed and those kind of things, but we'll get there. For now, we're going for the positive path, meaning everything works as expected. So let's run that again. So we're gonna say 2, we enter, so enter plus sign, enter 2, and then it gives us 4. If you do anything else than that, because we haven't covered a use case for a minus sign or multiplication sign or division sign, you're gonna get an error. That's basically what it means. So now let's say if we want another scenario, we use the word elif. So elif, the operator is let's use a subtraction, and we say we want the result to be equal. We take the first number and we subtract the second number from it. And guess what? Just like Python, like we found out in the previous videos, that the same variable can be used, and because the first scenario does not change the value or does not create a result variable, only the second scenario will create a result variable, and therefore we'll get an output from that, assuming provided that we choose the subtraction to be the operator. So let's give it a try. Run that. We're gonna say give it a bigger number, so because we're expecting something big, so we're gonna take 6, and then we want the negative sign, and we want to subtract 2 from it, and it gives us a 4. Brilliant, right? So that's the logic behind this. I think I'm gonna stop here for today, and then we'll pick up on the other operators, their multiplication and division, and hopefully complete our calculator and run the whole flow from top to bottom. Until next time, keep well. Bye-bye.